What is that? Boy, does that smell good. Thank you all very much. Great group of people, and it's such a great place. Wonderful honor to be with you. And this is a little different than the groups I speak to. Normally they've got Trump signs all over them and they're going totally crazy, but hopefully you'll be going through the time you get crazy. Because we're all in this together. We have a country that owes a tremendous amount of money. We owe a tremendous amount of money. A lot of people say, where does it go? How do we pay off $19 trillion? A lot of people, I was with some very good business people, they can't even define $1 trillion. What is it? I say, how many hundreds of billions are in the trillion? It's pretty simple stuff, but it's actually pretty complicated. These were words that Is that better? Yeah. Well, I can't help it that their stand is broken. That's good. This feels actually very comfortable. Come here. Come here, darling. So, a lot of people are saying, what do we do? Where do we go? How do we solve our problems? And I will tell you that we will solve our problems. We're going to bring jobs back from China. We're going to bring jobs back from all over the world, including Mexico, which you people know in New Hampshire more than any place else. I mean, just about more than any place else. New England generally got absolutely wiped out in the jobs market with companies moving down to Mexico, all because of failed policies. And they're still there, and we're going to get them to come back, a lot of them. And we will get a lot. And I think we'll get actually more than you lost, because we're going to open it up. And we're going to be smart. We're going to be smart with valuations. If you look at what happened with China with the devaluations of their currency, if you look at what they do to us on a constant basis, they taunt. They actually taunt. And then when we have a problem in North Korea, they don't help us. They say, well, we don't have that much control. And I don't know if you know, and they do, by the way, they have total control. Over North Korea, they have practically total control. They wouldn't even exist without China. And then you have phase 2, and I heard this over the last week, and I was amazed because we just made one of the worst deals ever made by our country. That's the deal we made with Iran. And Iran is the #1 partner of North Korea. So you'd say, why didn't you put that in the deal? You got to take care of the problem we have. Put that in the deal. But they don't put that in the deal. We have people that don't, we have people that don't know what they're doing. And it's affecting our country so horribly. So we're going to get that done. We're going to get it taken care of. And I think you're going to be very, very proud of this country. We are now. But I think over the next few years, if I get in, I think you're going to be very, very proud of this country. We have so many ideas. We're doing a massive tax cut for businesses and for the middle income. The middle income is like the forgotten people in this country. They haven't been taken care of. They haven't been treated with respect. They've gone 10 years without a pay raise. I don't know if you look, but statistically, they're actually making less money now than they were making 10 years ago. And then you wonder why they're angry. And you wonder why, when I make a speech, 21,000 people show up. And by the way, tonight, speaking of that, we're going to have 5,000 or 6,000 people at the Verizon Arena. And you're all invited. Would anybody like to come? I think you get there. I start speaking at around 7, so get there a little bit earlier. But come over. You'll have a lot of fun. It'll be great. Even if there's snow, I don't know what's going to happen with the snow. And the question is, we're going to take some question and answers. But the question is, how much will the snow, if there is a snow, how much will that affect the voters? What do you think? You say it won't, right? No. I hope you're right. I don't want to be one of these that say, oh, gee, Trump is favored, blah, 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 and then people can't get up. But I think our people are very dedicated. I think that the snow won't affect our people very much. They have a tremendous drive. They really want to see, my whole thing is make America great again. And they want to make America great again. They don't want to see deals made where we get Bergdahl and they get 5 killers. And by the way, Bergdahl, Sergeant Bergdahl, who was a traitor, Sergeant Bergdahl, 6 people died trying to find him. People forgot about that already. I see their parents on television, I read about it. 6 people died. But we get Bergdahl and they get 5 of the worst killers that there are. that they've coveted, that they've tried to get for 9 years, they get them, and they're now back on the battlefield trying to kill us, okay? So these are the deals we make, and it's just not gonna happen anymore. The deal with Iran is so bad, and then the ink isn't even dry, and they take, in the sea, they take 10 of our sailors, and they drop them to a begging position, hands up, guns at their heads, and this is what we get. And the only reason they released them is because they got $150 billion 2 days later, okay? You know, they're not stupid. So it's, well, believe me, if that didn't happen, they would have had them to this day. They would have had them for years, just like they had the other prisoners for many years. So I just want to say, New Hampshire's a special place. I've been here many times, having nothing to do with politics. I have a lot of friends that live up here because of the beauty of New Hampshire. And you know, what's very interesting is that I look outside and I see the woods and I see the sky and sometimes I see the snow, and that's even beautiful. But the funny thing is, it's a little different. When people look at New Hampshire, we see industry, we see great people, but we also see something that's amazing to me. We see a tremendous problem with heroin and drugs. And it's just so unique because it's like the last, you know, when you come up here, you don't think in terms of that. And yet, I've spoken to so many crowds, I've made so many speeches, and almost always, the first question I get is about the heroin problem and the drug problem that we have in New Hampshire. It's amazing, because you just don't relate it. You know, when you look at New York City, when you look at Los Angeles, when you look at some of these places, you understand drugs are all over the place. But you look at New Hampshire, you don't see it. And yet, it's almost always the first question I get. We're going to straighten it out. We're going to have strong borders, really strong borders. And the stuff isn't going to come in. And one of the problems with the heroin, it's so cheap. It's like buying bubble gum. And the cheapness is what makes it so the kids can get it. So I always tell people ask me, because I have a daughter, Ivanka, she's a great person, and I have a couple of kids that are just great, and then I have younger ones, I hope they turn out to be good too, I hope they will. Got a very strong, who the hell is this? This is wood. I always look for wood, when I make a statement like that, who knows, right? But I always say, and from the time my kids, Ivanka would grow up, and she'd be 3, and I'd say, no drugs, no alcohol, no cigarettes. I'd always tell them that. People say, you know, how do you do that? And, you know, they're doing good. You know, again, I say, let's see what happens, because it's a long road through life. But I say, no drugs, no cigarettes, no alcohol. And Ivanka would look at me and she'd go, Daddy, you're driving me crazy. What is it? Leave me alone. But as she grew older and older, I'd say the same thing, no drugs. Because I've had friends, very successful, very smart, that brilliant kids, but their kids would get stuck on alcohol or drugs. And I always add in cigarettes anyway. We can avoid the smoking, add it in, right? Because I've never smoked and I have no desire to smoke, but I have friends that are very strong people. They smoke, they can't stop. They just can't stop. So I say, no cigarettes, it's better. If you don't, in other words, if you don't start, it's real easy to stop because you have no longing for it. It doesn't get you hooked. The problem with what's going on here in New Hampshire and other places, many other places, is that there's such a tremendous volume of drugs that are pouring in, just so tremendous, and it's so inexpensive that the kids don't have a chance. They show off, they have a little bit, they take a little bit more, and all of a sudden they're hooked, and it's hard to get off. The way you stop it is by making the supply impossible to get, where they don't have the option of getting it. And you know the story. We're going to have very strong borders. We're going to build a wall. It's going to be a real wall. It's not going to be like the height of the ceiling. It's going to be numerous times, like 5 times the height of the ceiling. There's going to be a wall. If you get up, you're not coming down. And then you have the politicians. They say, "Well, you can't build a wall." Believe me, I built 95-story buildings. I think the walls are easy. That wall will be up so fast, and it'll look good, and it'll be everything. And I won't even say Mexico will pay for it, but they won't be paying for it. And you people, as business people, understand that Mexico, we have a trade deficit with Mexico that's so enormous, far greater than the cost of the wall. The wall's not even that expensive. You know, we're talking about precast concrete and boom, that's what I do the best. Oh, it's going to be beautiful. We'll even put nice designs, because I kid. I say, someday they may want to name it after me, so I better make it look good. Right? But it's going to be an effective wall. I mean, we have walls now, and they're, you know, like little walls, and they build ramps off them. You ever seen those pictures, like in Time magazine, where they're driving Jeeps over the ramps, loaded up with drugs, and they go over, they sell the drugs, and they come back, loaded up with cash. So we get the drugs, and they get the money. It's not going to happen anymore, folks. It's not going to happen. So when we cut off the supply, and we'll cut it off, and we'll be vicious about it. We're gonna be vicious, because they're destroying lives. You know, that's like killing people. That's like hitting people with a gun. That's like hitting people right through the middle of the head. Because these kids, they die. I mean, they die. It's not just getting addicted, they're addicted and they die the worst death. We will be very strong on the border, and we will stop that inflow coming into New Hampshire and other places. And it's gonna be a lot better than it is now by many, many times, by a factor of many times. Because, and I bring that up so strongly at this meeting, because amazingly, it's a question that I get more than any other question in New Hampshire. So, we're gonna have a great country, we're gonna make it better. I think we have a chance, you know, I say, make America great again. I actually think I've seen so many people like yourselves. We have such amazing people in the country. When I go out, I have 21,000 people in Dallas, we had toward the Mavericks Arena. We had 35,000 people in Mobile, Alabama, 20,000 people in Oklahoma. No matter where we go, we get these massive crowds. They're unbelievable people. And they just wanna work, and they love the country, which is something we all have in common. We love our country, we wanna work, we wanna create good lives, we want security, we want safety, we have to have safety, we want education. We wanna get rid of, Common Core is a disaster, it's a disaster. And then you have guys like Jeb Bush that wants Common Core, and you don't even understand it. But we need strong borders, we need great education, we wanna bring education back to a local level. I was telling the story the other day, it's very interesting that, shocking in a way, that you have some people where they want the Common Core, and yet very few now, it's actually down to a few people. But, because it can't be justified, because I see what happens with local education, where you have parents that are absolutely in love with their children, and then even when their children graduate, they want to stay involved with the educational process, and it runs so beautifully. But we're number 30 in the world in education, but we're number 1 in the world in cost per pupil. And number 2 doesn't even exist because it's so much less expensive. You have Norway, Sweden, Denmark, China. You have these countries are all the top countries. But there's so much less, they spend so much less. So we're number 1 in cost per pupil by far. By far. If you ever saw the difference, it's incredible. And yet we're number 30 in the world. We're third world countries, ahead of us. Common Core is not working, and it never will work. It's good for the bureaucrats to do it, and some of them I know care, but a lot of them don't care. They just want to get their paycheck. You ever see the Department of Education in Washington? It is one big, massive building, and it's a total waste. It's not working. So we're going to do things like that, and we're going to make, and I say this, so I say make America great again. I really believe it's going to be, we have a chance to make it greater than ever before. So with that, let's take a few questions, okay? Yes, ma'am.
First of all, Mr. Trump, thank you for coming to New Hampshire. Good luck to you. I have a wonderful picture of you and me at Mar-a-Lago, actually. But that's not my question. My question is, here, I'm very invested in our future because I've been in education for about 40 years.
Okay.
So we live in, I don't work in this town, but I live in this town. And in our school system here, we speak over 100 different languages.
Wow.
So you've addressed Common Core, the Department of Education. What role do you see, if any, the Department of Education playing in a situation like this? And one other issue, how we're not getting the money that we're supposed to be getting through special ed funds, and they come trickling down, and we're getting maybe 17% of the funds that we should be getting, that are.
Because it's going to other places that are more political, and that's what's happening. I hear that from a lot of people, where they're not getting what they put in, and if they could keep it. But what is happening? How do you have 100 languages? That's amazing.
We're a center for, a mecca for refugees.
That's
from
amazing.
all over.
Does everybody in the room know that? Isn't that an amazing thing? Well, it tells you, it tells you how incredible and the difficult problems that we have. As far as I'm concerned, from a federal standpoint, there may be a little bit of involvement just in keeping overall sanity with it. You want to make sure it works properly, but you're talking about 95% getting rid of, just a coordination factor, because I really believe that. And if you do that, you're going to have much more money to spend without any reductions. They waste so much money in Washington. They're wasting money on tremendous amounts of money in education in Washington. So you have a lot more money The assimilation problem is something where, when you say that many people, that's an amazing thing. I think very few people outside of the area would know that. That's an amazing statistic. But you have to have assimilation, because if you don't, you can't have this. And a lot of people say, well, let's create a country where you have Spanish speaking, where you have different, eventually there has to be assimilation. And it's the nicest thing to do, because ultimately the American dream is about education, in my opinion. Without education, you're not going to have the American dream for people. So it's very important. And education, I will tell you, if I win, education will be an absolute prime. I'm a person that believes very strongly in education, and it's helped me a lot. My uncle was a professor. I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and my uncle was a great professor at MIT for many years, Dr. John Trump. And he was a great, great student and a great, brilliant man, but he was a great educator and loved MIT. And you understand, I have such respect for the whole world of education. So for me, it's going to be an absolute priority. But you really can't have the American dream unless you get the educational situation straightened out in the country, and we'll do that. Okay, thank you. Great question. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Trump. You mentioned that we've got $19 trillion in debt. You talked about reining in waste, fraud, and abuse to try and control our spending. I wonder what other policy decisions or options you pursue to help tackle our nation's debt.
Okay, just as an example, this came up recently, and a friend of mine is a member of a club that I have, and he came up, he's a very big doctor. And he said, Mr. Trump, people don't even know these things. There's so many big elements in Washington that amount to massive amounts of money having to do with spending. And we're going to build our military bigger, better, stronger than ever before. But we may spend less money doing it because of the kind of contracts they put out. We buy equipment that they don't even want because a politician or a person close to a politician owns the munitions plant, and they don't even want it. They want something else. When it comes to drugs, we're the largest purchaser of drugs in the world. I'm talking about prescription drugs to make people better. And yet, we don't bid drugs out. We have a policy. So if you go to the drugstore and buy some drugs off the counter or wherever you buy them, we are paying just about the same amount in the United States government, even though we buy, hundreds of billions of dollars worth of drugs for Medicare, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, that's not possible, that's not possible. So I actually went and checked. It's right. They have a no bidding process. So the people, the companies, the drug companies, are making an absolute fortune. They say if we bid it out, we might save as much as $300 billion. Think of that. All you have to do is bid it out. But we don't bid it out. Why don't we bid it out? Tell me why. Because the guys that are on the platform with me are all taken care of by the drug companies. They're all running. In the case of Jeb Bush, Woody Johnson is his campaign finance director. Woody Johnson is Johnson & Johnson, the drug company. Now, if he ever won, which is an impossibility. But trust me, I've gotten to know he's not smart enough to. If he wins, that would be a big embarrassment for the Republican. We've had enough of the Bushes. But you know what? Woody Johnson, in all fairness, is his director of, we'll say it, fundraising. Now, Woody Johnson put up a lot of money. He raised a lot of money. He's the head of Johnson & Johnson, owns a big chunk of it, right? But Woody Johnson, do you think he's going to raise, he's going to make competitive bidding for the drug companies? No. It's not only Jeff, it's all of these guys. They all get money from drug companies and oil companies and all of the others that we're talking about. The same. I get no money. I'm self-funding. I'm putting up all my own money. So I'm not getting money. I was offered so much money. I feel so foolish not taking it. Because my whole life is about taking money, right? We're business people. People offer me money, they'll say, we'll take it, okay? Now I said, I'll turn it down. And I feel sort of foolish, actually. I don't even know that it's worthwhile. I don't even know that it's, in other words, when people go to the poll, I have all these ads running, I see, do you ever see more ads? They're all special interests. These ads are all special interest ads. They're all put up by people that are giving millions and millions of dollars to these candidates. And I'm getting none, and I'm not complaining about it. I haven't put up that many. Actually, when you're doing it yourself, you're a little more careful with that. When you're doing it from these guys, you say, what the hell difference does it make? But these ads on television are unbelievable. And they're lies to a large extent, but they're tremendous, massive volume. And these are the people, every single person that I'm running against, including the ones on the other side, they take a tremendous amount of money. They're all in the pockets of the oil companies and the drug companies and the utilities and all of these people. So you can never really get down. And by the way, it's human nature. Who's going to go and hurt the drug companies when they got you into office, okay? Me, I don't care because they didn't give me anything. They didn't give me anything, nor did I want anything. And they offered me a lot, but I just don't want it because that would really defeat the purpose. So I don't know if I get proper credit for that. In other words, when people go into the voting booth, I don't think they say, "Oh, gee, Trump is great because he didn't take." I don't know that I get any credit. I don't even know a lot of people know that. But there is a group of people that know it, and those people do respect it. But it allows me to make the right decision. I will guarantee you, we're going to go through a full bidding process on drugs. For instance, if we did a favored nations clause with the drug companies, because it's hard to say we're going to negotiate. Favored nations. The group that buys the lowest, you take a company, take Pfizer, which is now leaving the United States. I mean, they're leaving. On top of everything else, they're leaving, they're moving to Ireland because they get lower taxes, okay? I'll stop all of that stuff. I mean, we get a lower tax, which I'm doing. I'm lowering the corporate tax, I'm lowering the taxes for the middle income people because they've been totally decimated. But we have to do something, and we have to do something fast. And I will make sure that we dig things out, that we get the kind of stuff we want. I want our military to get the equipment they want, not the equipment that they don't want because some political group has the best lobbyists. We're going to do things right, and we'll save billions of dollars. And just to answer your question, like the drug company, which is so easy to understand, but not easy to understand how they don't get bidding. But I mean, can you imagine where they don't bid? I'm telling you, you go to the counter and buy drugs, we pay almost the same thing, and maybe we pay more. I mean, maybe we pay more, who knows? But these guys make a fortune. But you see how much is riding. When you're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, you see how much is riding. And then when you wonder, boy, that company gave $5 million to these people, you say, that's a lot of money. It's peanuts compared to what we're talking about. With me, I'm just going to do the right thing. I'm in it to do the right thing. I'm in it to make America great again. And just like the drug company, there's other of those situations that are probably a lot worse than that. Probably a lot worse than that. And I will find them, and we will solve those problems. And you're talking about numbers that are astronomical. Okay, thank you. Good question. Yes, ma'am.
Hi, thank you for being here. I am a New Hampshire resident, and I've made my rounds. I've pretty much checked out every candidate. I think you're very exciting to listen to. Obviously, you have America pretty pumped up about your natural way of speaking, and you're not rehearsed. You sort of just go on experience. So I love that about you. I'm curious, in your planning and thinking out, if and when you make it into the office, what would be the first 3 things that you would focus on?
Okay. First would be borders, and I would immediately cut the executive order that Obama has that everybody can pour into the country. You know that. Our borders, our southern border, people are pouring into the country. And we have to take care of them, and we, in many cases, educate them. They actually have a town in California where the illegals, they have a lot of illegals, where the illegals want to take over the city council. No, it's true. They want to all be, they're going to have a city council for all illegals. So I don't know what's going to happen with it. But this is where we've come to. And then the other people don't want to do anything about it because it's not politically correct. So you're going to have a city council headed by people that aren't even allowed to be in the country. The whole country's going to hell. I mean, we are in trouble. So now I'll do one of the things, strengthening up our military, saving Social Security. Everybody, they're putting in money into Social Security. And now people are talking about knocking the hell out of Social Security. People have been paying into Social Security for a long time. We're going to bring our jobs back. And we're going to make our country vibrant again and rich again. One woman came up to me and said, I really like you, Mr. Trump. You're the best. There's nobody like you. But the one thing I don't like when you say we're going to make our country rich again, I don't think it sounds good. I say, I'm sorry, but we have to make our country rich again before we can make it great again. We're a debtor nation. But we are going to make our country rich again in a positive way, with jobs and with, a lot of things are going to happen, really positive things. Because we've just been stripped. I mean, I look at some of the factors. Excuse me, here we are. I don't even know what this, I'm really good at this. Look. We are in a factory building, okay? Beautiful. And these buildings are turned into senior citizens housing and things, and that's all wonderful, but it's not jobs. It's not jobs. The jobs are the jobs where you're sending out steel and you're sending out product. And all of this stuff is great, but we need jobs in this country, and our jobs have been taken. And pretty soon we're not gonna have industry. You look at what happened with Boeing, they made an order, China made an order of, many airplanes, 300, I think. And what happens? They're making them in China. China's insisting that they be made in China. So Boeing is building a massive plant in China. How does this all help us? And then China, all of a sudden, you'll see that they'll close their plants here, they'll make everything in China. They won't even have plants over here. That will be step 2 or step 3. And that's the way it is. I mean, you look at it, Iran, we give them $150 billion. What did they do? First day, they ordered 118 brand new jets, big commercial jets. Where? Airbus, made in Europe. They didn't order from Boeing. Why aren't they ordering? Because Kerry is an incompetent negotiator, and Kerry didn't insist that they have to be up. And everyone knew they were looking at buying planes, but they couldn't buy them because they didn't have the money. Oh, do they have money now? So now they take the money we gave them, and they order 118 Airbus planes. They didn't order Boeing planes, and they had no intention of ordering. And Boeing is probably even a better product, I hate to say it. But they didn't want to order Boeing planes, they wanted to order only Airbus. And now they're buying missiles from Russia. They're spending a tremendous amount of money in Italy and other European countries, and we're getting nothing. Not gonna work that way, not with me, not with me. And I think you people will understand that. We're gonna become rich again, we're gonna become great again. And the reason I say great again, the people are so late. I had no idea. I mean, I figured the people are unbelievable. Our people in this country are absolutely unbelievable. They'll do anything. These are unbelievable people. And to be honest, I had no idea that I'd see such love, that I'd see such love of the country. These are people that are gonna, we got it there, and we're rapidly losing it. And I mean, I mean rapidly. You just have to look at our numbers. We had no growth last quarter. If China had 6% or 7%, they consider that to be almost like we can't live with that. You saw the numbers. We had no growth last quarter. No growth. I mean, no growth. It's unheard of. Seriously, when China's down at 6%, you know what I'm talking about. It's like there's going to be a revolution, and here we are at nothing. And then you also saw when we our exporting was the lowest it's been since, many years. Last quarter, exporting from our country was the lowest it's been in many years. So I know that better than anyone. You have a strong dollar, sounds good, but it's very bad for that. It's good for a guy like me who goes out and buys property in Scotland and buys property in other places. That's the only thing it's good for, but it's bad for us. Sounds so good. We have a strong dollar. Problem is, the hotels aren't going to be filled up. Nothing's going to be filled. It's only good if you want to spend it outside. So we're going to get a change around, folks, and we're going to make it so strong, and we're going to be back to where we were, and we're not going to let people take advantage of us. These countries are taking advantage. They are having a field day. They're having a field day off of the United States. And I have great respect for China. I made a lot of money with China. They buy my condos for tens of millions of dollars. I have tenants I have the biggest bank in the world is from China, as you know, and that bank is a big tenant of mine in one of my buildings in Manhattan. I own in San Francisco the Bank of America building along with the group, and it's a phenomenal building, and I got it through China. Through making good deals, I got it from China. And so I have no problem with China. I have problems with our people. I'm not angry at the Chinese leadership, but their leadership, the Mexican leadership, the Japanese leadership, too smart for our leadership. They play a game that our people don't understand, but I understand it. And the people that I know, I have the best business people in the world are from this country. They want to help out. Carl Icahn, you all know the name Carl Icahn. He's endorsed me. He wants to help out. These are people that I will let them work on that trade deal in Japan. If I put Carl Icahn as an example, do me a favor, take a look at the trade deal with China. Just go to lunch, have your lunch, enjoy yourself. It's going to be a whole different story. We have political hacks doing trade deals with China. We have political hacks doing trade deals with Mexico and Japan. We're going to have the best people in the world doing those deals. Those deals are vital. It's not going to be this way anymore. And the funny thing is they'll like us better and they'll respect us more. So we're going to do great, and I hope you get out tomorrow and vote, unless you're not going to vote for me, in which case I think you should say that. So thank you all very much. It's a great honor. Thank you. Thank you very much.
You can have over here. I'm going to go there. We're gonna get the corner out of it when it's way.